Okay. Sewer abatement discussion. I know at the end of last meeting, we did an abatement, Peter, and you had some issues with it. And I think what we should do is, I think we should, have a policy that we should make right tonight as to what we're going to do as far as abating. And we're probably talking about abating the sewer only. And Mike, did you look into other towns and what they were doing with this?
Have not.
Okay. My thoughts about the sewer abatement, especially like the last one we did up at DeSisto, obviously they didn't know that what was happening and all that water went, thousands of gallons of water went. And, but my contention is it didn't go into the sewer, so it didn't cost us a dime. That's why I abated it. But Peter, you had an issue with, you think people should be.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I think that, we see these all the time. And in the past, we've abated things, just as you've said here, we'd abate the sewer, but not the water, because in fact, the water did go through the meter. However, I'm thinking that maybe we need more teeth in this so people will pay attention a little more when they have a leaking toilet or whatever cause they may have, a broken garden pipe in their yard, and not have to make be a little more vigilant about their water use and have to pay the sewer portion of it if they have a problem.
But I'll give you my example. When I had that water line going out to the barn.
Right.
And it leaked out there, and I had no idea that it was leaking until I got my water and sewer bill.
Right.
There's no way that I would have known that unless I go down once a week and look at my meter and everything shut off and that little thing on the meter is moving. So I don't know how.
I would just like to put a little more teeth into it. So this would be less frequent.
So how can we do that?
And I'm just suggesting that.
Yes, John.
How frequent is this need to abate the charges? Like you, Donald, I had a similar situation about 10 years ago. It's never happened again, of course. But how frequent do people complain of having, this kind of a problem? Does it happen often?
Probably half a dozen times a year, maybe.
Yeah, maybe half a dozen times.
Not a lot. Not a lot.
At the most. It's not a lot, John. So
I'm just thinking how hard we should come down on just a few people,
well, maybe.
It's not.
Yeah, go ahead.
What's that?
No, go ahead. I mean.
No, I was saying, if it's only happening a half a dozen times and these are reasonable excuses, I don't know that we need to really come down hard on them. We could technically abate them as if it's not going to create a real deficit in the budget. I don't think it's just going to make for bad relationships with people, I think.
Yeah, maybe what we should do is, and what we've been doing is looking at every one of them individually. And I just don't know how we can put more teeth into it.
So typically, like this is a large example, big water system outside. The water shutoff got hit with a lawnmower. They didn't realize it. When they tore all those buildings down up there, they just cut the water lines off. They didn't cap them. If it was capped, it
would not have happened.
So, this was a pretty, I think they went through like 400 or 500,000 gallons.
Yeah, you said they went through a lot of water.
And it was kind of on the edge of the lawn, running into the woods. And it really wasn't running. You couldn't really tell where it was coming from. It was really just kind of had a very, very large area wet. And we were trying to pinpoint where it was. Mm-hmm. So I was trying to test it for chlorine. And I couldn't find an area where it was actually coming up. It was just kind of all stagnant. But it's, another one was the the boiler blow off on, the person down on, Church Street where, Mrs. Ozak, the healthcare provider, opened the cellar door one day and they didn't know how long it'd been running. There was like 8 inches of water in the basement. So the water does go through the meter. Nobody usually ever has a problem paying the water, but the water does not go into the sewer. And I understand both sides, we need to maybe case by case. It's always been a case by case basis, but just to kind of give people that are listening an idea, it's hard to make somebody pay for something that they did not.
You-
Actually use, yeah,
Yeah.
I understand it, but I mean, I feel like this most recent one, that's an incident that could have been avoided had they taken proper care when they decommissioned the line.
Yeah.
And capped it, or better still, back at the, I don't know what they have for a water main, but at the corporation, right at the,
6-inch water main with a 1-inch copper services. So it was just such a freak thing. So when they hit the water shut off, it probably sticks up out of the ground that high. And it bent it and it spun the shut off and the rod caught and opened the shut off halfway. Nobody knew it. I mean, how would you?
Sure.
And I get it,
it could have been avoided.
They called me like, hey, we got something going on up here. And they used to read the water meter all the time in the pit. They would have noticed it if they were reading it every day like they used to, because we really got the water pinned down up there. It was trying to figure out where all this water was going, because there were some pretty big bills up there. And they actually had a situation across the street with the same thing. Shut off was opened a little bit to the old Roberts house. And it's been condemned or, abandoned for 20 years. So anyway, I get both sides of it, but I just feel.
And we've had cases where you've actually told homeowners that they have a leak and they've come here months and months later looking for a rebate.
That's why I think,
An abatement.
Yeah.
that's why I think we should look at each one of these individually. You're exactly right.
Now typically what we do is we average, Christine and Erica will take an average, the last 3 billing sessions in that same period and average the usage for the sewer or whatever. It's always a sewer abatement. It's usually never a water abatement.
Right.
So, and then they average it and then that's what they charge and then everything comes off. So maybe you make it, I don't know if you got to pay at least half, or you put a percentage on it or something.
There is a percentage. And remember that happened on 183 in Glendale, that house near the Rockwell Museum. Remember that they had an issue, but they had a caretaker. Remember, and the caretaker didn't pay attention, and we actually charged them for that. So that's why I think we really should look at each one individually.
Which is fine, which is what we've been doing.
Yeah.
And
We do have, I feel, Tony and I have a good working, and the board has a really good working relationship with, all the customers I've ever dealt with have been nothing but courteous. And to John's point, I hate to start having a little bit of a bad reflection on, and I understand we have a job to do, we have money to make, but the charging of something that somebody actually didn't.
Right, and it didn't cost
The tough
us.
part, it didn't cost us a dime.
it depends on the merits of their argument. And number one, and the other thing is, this is a 3-member board. We don't have to have a unanimous vote on an abatement. Two people can abate and the third can
Yes,
vote it down, so.
yeah. Okay. Tuckerman Bridge update.
So I talked to Steve Mack from Foresight Engineering today, and it sounds like last week that Mike in Foresight Mike Canales, town administrator, got the contract finally signed. So Steve said they'll be getting onto the site soon. They have to look at all those bridge reports, or actually the bridge report for the last one from that bridge. and then go out and do an assessment. They have to run a bunch of calculations to make sure the bridge can obviously support the weight, blah, blah, blah. And that's the kind of the first part of the stage of the contract, is to go through any reports that we have, go do an on-site inspection, and then we move from there. You know, can we or can't we move forward? So that's where we're at with that.
Okay. Park Street Pump Station, Tony?
We have a signed contract with DPC Engineering as of last week. And we have a kickoff meeting, which got scheduled today late afternoon for Thursday at 1 PM with the engineering firm. So we are getting underway with the first leg of that project.
Wonderful thing.
Yes, it's well needed, let me tell you.
Now, I saw you guys with a tank going through Main Street. Did we have problems down there again or not?
Last week, we had a little problem, Thursday. And there's something that's changed in the makeup of the drainage that we haven't quite figured out, which actually we're gonna do some more work tomorrow down there. Something has either been, compromised, or I don't know what it is yet. But the sewer in the last 6 months, when it rains, we have a high, pretty good thunderstorm and rain event, is seeing some inflow that it never has before. And I cannot pinpoint it. We were down there a couple weeks ago in a pouring rainstorm, and we dumped some dye off of Maple. It showed up down in front of the convenience store in the catch basin. And then sometime later, some of it got into the sewer system.
Oh, really?
So there's something going on down there. And I don't know what it is yet, but we may have to get somebody in to do a little more investigative work than we're capable of, but I'm not sure about that yet.
So that dye certainly shows something's going on.
Yeah, oh yes, it's something, definitely.
Well, that's good.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
While we're on Park Street, I might as well throw this in. I was going to save it for last, but so I brought the town bylaws with me, and just because if somebody wanted me to read them out, I want to do a sump pump inspection down there again. It's been some time. It's been at least 10 years. And I think part of the inflow down there is due to people finding an easy way to just get rid of their sump pump discharge that doesn't have to go out on their lawn, make a puddle, maybe find its way back through a crack in the foundation. They just have a plumber come and put a TY in and divert it to the sewer, and it's gone forever. Well, if people are listening, I just want to make you aware that that is in our bylaws, that it's illegal, and we can come and inspect your home with, identification and due notice. And within the next month, I want to have the board's permission to send out letters to people on Park Street, because that's where we're influxed immediately the most, to revisit that situation down there.
Totally in favor of it.
In the short time, we need to limp this station along, hopefully for about another 12 months, hopefully less. But
Hopefully, you can also at that particular time too, either sump pumps and or
we need to
that other
try to keep every drop that we can from going into that pump station until even when we have the new one, we don't want it to come in either.
I know, right.
Right now it's critical. And it's been critical this summer.
Yeah, I think we do that, the sump pump, and also that other issue with your dye testing, really catch this thing now.
And we've been inundated. I know it's been a wet summer. We've had some heavy thunderstorms, but we've had them in the past and it hasn't been this bad. So
You good with that, John?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, that's an illegal thing, and I don't think we need to add that water into the sewer that's already going up to capacity. I understand that, I think Mike had mentioned how much water was being processed over the last couple of weekends. It's unbelievable. So,
Yeah.
no, I think it's a situation that needs to be addressed. I think Tony, you're right. We got to send them a letter.
and then follow up with an inspection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably not a bad letter to send to everybody, just as a.
Yeah, you could generic send it to everybody, but I think, I wouldn't have time to inspect everybody.
No, I'm just saying a reminder. Not-
When is the next billing cycle?
Not till January.
Okay.
So we need to do it before that. Yeah. which would be a big mailing to everybody. I mean,
Or we can put it on a notation on our next bill. You know, Christine can put notes right on the,
yeah, I'd like to move on Park Street quicker than that.
No, I think the letter, just at Park Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, just-
And the letter, the rest of it, I think that's a good idea, Mike.
to all the sewer customers.
Yeah,
And we can quote the language in our bylaw in the letter, you know.
I think that's good. Yeah, where's the teeth? It's right in there.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I agree.
It's a $20 day fine per day.
And you
The
know,
violation,
Because-
if I choose to,
right, but you, when you did the new sewer line, didn't you go through every house or you talked?
we've
to-
done it twice. We did it under Bob Bugley when he was on the board before we did during the comprehensive wastewater management plan. We did that. And I think Weston and Sampson conducted it then. And then I did one myself in 2008, which was 7 years later. So it's been since 2008. So
Did you find some from?
oh, yeah, and then you know what they do? They put them right back in.
Yes,
But I just want to
that's-
remind people that I know who they are because I know, I drive down there a lot. I see driveways diced up in the winter and I see nothing on lawns this summer, so.
Yeah, everybody's switching over, yeah. Well, again, fine is fine, you know? Okay, water haulers, late fee. I thought we had that settled, but remember when,
I don't recall. I don't think we,
okay, then let's talk about it and let's do it then.
the only thing that we have capable of doing is sending a $10 demand fee. That's what is done now. And after, I want to say 60 days, there's a percentage that starts going on. So, I thought you guys had, talked about, you know, making the demands for the bulk water haulers that are billed pretty much on a monthly basis. To put some more, money on those demand fees for the water haulers. But if we want to stick with what Christine and Erica do now, that's totally fine.
But don't we, but the real issue, we only have like one person right now, right?
Which isn't, it's all paid up, so,
It is paid off,
yeah.
okay.
I mean, we could increase the demand fees, but Mike, if they're behind,
I know, right?
do you let them take more
Or
water?
it's after the 30 days, I think we might have talked about last time, you're shut, right? If we're
Just
not
shut
paid
'em
up in
off.
60 days or whatever, the 30 days, then you're not getting any more water. I mean, we can do that.
I'd make it-
We didn't realize it got this far out of non-payment, let's put it that way.
Yeah, that was like months, right? I mean,
Oh, it was
like
a
6
year.
months, yeah.
It was a year,
So
which we had no idea.
When do the demand fees go out? After how many days?
30.
30. I would say that's the cutoff.
Yeah,
Come in, pay your demand and you're back water and you can haul again.
yeah. All right.
And maybe even, you know, if they're a repeat offender, just say you can't haul anymore. Not from Stockbridge.
Yeah.
You good with that, John?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
No,
I am too.
sounds good.
Gonna let her know?
Yes.
Good, okay. Watershed and the inspection letter, Mike?
Yeah, so we had the watershed inspection, I can't remember the day now, I think it was in June, maybe. It went very well. We do receive, because we have a watershed, management plan and we have a surface water treatment, we do with a satisfactory watershed inspection. It's like they call it a half log credit removal, which we get for, it's basically part of the treatment process at the water treatment plant. It gives us, the ability to use like a little bit of a less chlorine, I guess you can say. There's very technical equations and stuff behind all this, but this lets us, get a half log credit removal. So it's a big deal. We walked around the lake, we did a bunch of stuff. I did give the lady that did the inspection our safe yield report. I wanted the state to look at it and see what they thought of it. because I don't know anything about this stuff. Our safe yield number, when they built the water treatment plant, was 781,000 gallons a day. Now, all of a sudden, we're like at our average, or I think it was like 280,000. So I was like kind of perplexed.
Wow.
This doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. But part of that problem is that we've never really collected reservoir level data. How much water is in the lake? Okay, we got a really dry summer. There's been some summers in the past, long time ago, when we get into really drought situations where the DEP says, okay, all surface water supplies need to take a measurement of their reservoir once a week. And then we would turn that data in with our monthly report, which I did give that information to the engineer that did this safe yield, but it was such little amount of data. You know, they didn't have that ability to say, well, okay, everybody else was in a drought, Lake Averick was overflowing and you guys were fine. They didn't have, it was a really pertinent part of the thing was to have reservoir level information, which this year it's more than full. I have made up a sheet since then and started last year recording reservoir levels. So they have that report and they haven't gotten back to me on how they feel about the report because.
So that's monthly, Mike.
What's that?
Monthly?
No, they have, I'm referring to the safe yield report that the DEP has. I wanted somebody that looks at this kind of stuff all the time, look at it and see what they think. So I gave it to DEP, asking them a favor to get back to us on that report, because I really don't know what I'm looking at. I mean, I know, I get it, but people that look at this stuff all the time.
But your levels that you take, that's once a month?
Oh,
The level reading?
I'll do that when we stop overflowing. I'll be doing it once a week.
They probably look at like acres of water, the deepest part of the lake, if it's full.
Oh, yeah.
And then they can figure on how many gallons per person in town uses.
A
And
big part of it is the actual topography of the watershed, how much rain we get, how much makes it to the lake.
Right.
There's a lot behind it.
So wouldn't it be the difference between the overflow rate and the intake? Where the
Our
invert
water
is?
consumption, they had all that, all our raw water consumption. That was easy to give them that.
No, but the measurement, in relation to what? In relation to where the intake is?
No, I gave them the data that I gave them is how much water we took out of the lake on a daily basis for however many years they wanted.
Right.
I can't remember how many years it was. Then they took all the rain data, because we do collect all the rain data for Stockbridge. Granted, our rain gauge is at the water treatment plant, which is, these storms can hit your house and, miss Pete's just about nowadays. So I gave them as much data as I could, and they have a lot of stuff. USGS supplies a lot of information, watershed areas, and I think I emailed that report to you guys last year when we got it, and it's an interesting report, and the actual bathymetry of the lake, that old map that Joseph Franz went up in 1931 in January, drilled a hole every 100 feet in a grid. He calculated how much water the lake holds, and at that time, the lake was down 1.5 feet. And he came up, this report that we got came up with a quantity of water, tens of millions of gallons less than what Joseph Franz had. So part of this watershed inspection is they recommend that we get new bathymetry done in the lake. And I actually got a price on that already from GZA, who we're working with doing the bowl sample.
What I'm getting at, Mike, where are you taking your measurements from?
Right at the spillway.
At the spillway? Just
How many inches down from
lower than, okay, wouldn't we want to know the practical working relationship? Wouldn't that include what you have in surplus over the intake pipe?
Yeah, we have that measurement, yep.
Yeah. Would be more indicative of what you have in reserve.
Right, so the lake is 22 or 23 feet deep at the deepest part, which means 0 to us because We can't.
You can't get to it.
We can't get that water.
Yeah.
Our water, when our reservoir is full, we have 9.2 feet of water over the top of that intake that we can get out of that lake.
Right.
So, yeah, safe yield, all this information gets put together, how much rain, if we're in a drought situation, there's just a whole lot of factors that go into it. It's pretty interesting to read about, but I just don't know why the numbers are so drastically different. So,
Yeah, because obviously the bottom of that lake hasn't changed that much in all those years.
so they have that report. I've not heard back. I know they have some people on that work for DEP or people that they know that we can get an analysis of our report and maybe say, you might want to think of doing this over, or no, this data looks pretty darn good to us. And
Yeah.
just to have some, and I asked the person that did it, he's since retired now, to come in and explain this report to us 2 years ago or a year ago, and that never happened. So, I guess we'll just stay tuned and see what the DEP gets back.
So, and just to clarify for me, who produced the 200 and, how much? $280,000? I mean, 80,
The engineering
280,000.
firm that we had do this past study,
Yeah.
yeah, it was HCS Environmental.
And they came up with the 289,000 gallons.
290 or something. That's basically our it's our average flow, our daily average
Rich
flow,
flow, okay.
annual average flow. So he said, based on your annual average flow, this is your safe yield is right here. So it was really, I don't know. So we'll wait to hear from DEP and whoever I get an email from, I'd like to get a contact that I can call and talk to a person about it as well.
Yeah, it'd be nice if they, and going further, that they come and talk to us.
Yeah.
If we have to make some decisions on it.
And we really need to know how much our lake holds. We need
Yeah.
to know our supply. And that's why we did this safe yield report. We want to know, it's our product, it's our, we have to know how much we have.
So modern times now, how would they go assess it? Same thing, winter time?
No, they have a boat and they have a GPS unit and they do grid work and they have a depth sounder and they pretty much do a grid work on the whole entire lake with a boat and GPS and all that stuff, and
Really accurate.
very accurate.
Yeah.
Get a little electric motor and away you go.
Little electric motor, yep.
I think it's good.
So that is,
Yeah, I
I
do
think
too.
that price was right around the $10,000 range. So that would be something that we would put on for a special article to have it done next year. So, and DEP, it's not a requirement, they have requirements and they have recommendations, so it was a recommendation that really, we need to know what our lake holds,
Sure.
so. And it's not much money, obviously, it's pretty cheap money to spend and get to know what we have in our lake.
Get a full report, yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Yep, we will do that.
So they did recommend, they mentioned the safe yield report in here, they recommended that we start measuring the lake at the spillway, when it's not overflowing, obviously, to see how far we go down. And they also recommended that we might want to look into a solar monitoring device that we can put there that would measure and give data to us, constantly monitor the level of the lake.
Mhm.
It would have to be solar, obviously, and I don't know where we would put it, but that's something for the professionals to let us know. I'm sure it's done all over the place, so. That one, let's see. They talked about putting the beaver deceiver down in the culverts where we constantly battle the beavers in the spring when the little ones move out of the parents boot them out and they go look for their next place to mess up. So they recommended putting in a beaver deceiver, which I'm kind of on the fence about, but And they also recommended that we update the forestry management plan, which I carried over the money from last year's out of the tree warden's budget. Jeff didn't spend a ton of money. And we carried over the money, and I think that'll cover the entire cost of that forestry management plan to get updated. It's pretty much, and there was a beaver dam that we came across, and that's already been taken care of. It was down kind of right near the lake. I've never seen them ever build one there, but they built one right down near the water. It's like they couldn't even back any water up because it was like in the lake, kind of where the stream goes in. It was really a weird spot, so.
Now, down at the cove, you still cup that out every now and then, you know, where it's-
Yeah.
that overflows, that little spillway.
Yeah.
Also, just speaking of the lake, the intake pipe, remember we talked about it before about getting maybe Neil and Jay Ryan
Yes.
up there to clean that out,
Yeah.
Mike?
Yeah, I actually got to call Neil and get that scheduled.
It'd be nice if we could get that done before winter.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay,
for sure.
okay. Stockbridge Bowl Steering Committee, John?
Hi,
Is there-
yeah, we had an interesting meeting where we picked up on a topic that we have brought to this committee, and I brought back information regarding, our 5-year plan. I mean, obviously, our concern with the steering committee is how to keep the lake, the asset which it is for Stockbridge, clean, great for recreation, but also keeping it safe. And because we know some of the septics around the lake, especially on Lake Drive, have failed, it's become a concern of Jim Willits with the Tri-Town. And so, to some's dismay, we said that we have a 5-year plan which does not include expanding the sewer at this time. That we have a lot of expenses, a lot of things that need to be updated before we touch that. I think that it's still up in the air as to what the solution is. Some people are thinking that Jim Willits thinks that a large common septic field may be a solution, although we're not sure exactly if that's going to be more expensive than the expansion of the sewer. So that remains a concern. I think we discussed having some hard data, and I think, Mike, you can speak to that if you like. You were going to do some measurements of the nitrates and phosphates as an indicator of the contamination in the lake. We're not talking about E. coli problems at this point yet, but I think that's a concern for anyone who lives on the lake and wants to keep the lake a pristine place. Now, obviously, we have to mitigate that with the costs involved in making this solution and who's going to pay for this solution. I think that the Lake Drive Association and we have talked about this, and they're certainly very interested in knowing how they should proceed. I don't think we have an answer yet. We're still thinking about it. Obviously, if we do go with a sewer expansion, it's going to be down the road a ways, and it's going to require a meeting of the Stockbridge people to decide if this is how they want to spend their taxpayers' money. And that's, beyond my pay grade. But I think that that was one of the major issues. The other issues that we talked about was something you probably read about in the paper, and that's the harvester incident, which has created a bit of a problem because right now we're not harvesting until we can figure out how to use the other one or a way for this GPS to be repurchased as it was soaked in the lake. Other than that, I don't think I have anything else.
Okay, thank you.
I did, today I got an email. I sent it to Mike and Roxanne quickly because there was an invoice attached with it from the last round of sampling that we did. And the results were all in there as well. And I did look at them quickly and that phosphorus and nitrate levels, and everything was very, 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 very low. So, but I just looked quickly, so I didn't, all the samples, different samples that we took, all were checked for that, analyzed for that, so they were all super low. So, for what that's worth. But that's the only one I really looked at, was the last sampling. I don't have the data from all the other samplings that we had done over the couple of years we've been doing it, so. And I think Patrick has a question.
Yeah, Pat, do you have a question?
I want to go back to the watershed inspection report. I just wanted to note that section 7, number 4 claims that we have zebra mussels in Stockbridge Bowl. And I wonder if there's any way, or if we should bother, but obviously that's not correct. And I don't know that we should be, like, DEP doesn't realize that that's Laurel Lake and not Stockbridge Bowl. Maybe we should inform them that, we don't have them. And I was just kind of curious. It says that they remain in the area of concern. When we get voting allowed on Lake Averitt, why would we be concerned about zebra mussels?
Do you know what he was talking about?
No.
I didn't either.
No,
Mike?
I know that they did mention zebra mussels continue to be a concern. Invasive species was found in nearby. Oh, yeah, they did. I didn't catch that. I'll have them amend that, because when I first got this report, there was 3 corrections I had them make, and I missed that totally. I perused right over that sentence.
I just want to comment about how complimentary this is to both your board and your team, and how awesome that is. So I'm not complaining. I just don't think we should take a black mark for having zebra mussels.
Yeah, for sure, I agree.
My other question is, it talks about algae blooms in Lake Averitt from like over 20 years ago or 25 years ago, and how we treat it with copper sulfate. If we have a plan on the books to do that, which I don't have any problem with, just because it's of the Board of Health's new bylaw, we might want to make sure that we have a procedure in place where if in an emergency situation we had to apply what is effectively an herbicide to the water, that you guys had a procedure set up with the Board of Health to get it approved quickly.
When I first started here, and back when Tony and we used to drive around the lake every year in a little rowboat with an electric motor and put copper sulfate in the lake, which is an oxidizer, and now, to keep algae blooms down. And we did it every year when the water hit about 50 to 55 degrees. But once we put the water treatment plant in with all the filtration that we have, it was no longer a process that we needed to do. And they kind of replaced that with, we have the ability to put in carbon dioxide. Or chlorine dioxide. We have a chlorine dioxide generator at the old Interlake and pumping station on Averitt Road. And we can also add potassium permanganate there, which are both oxidizers. But we've never had to use them. We've never had really big issues with that stuff. So thankfully, we haven't had to use those chemicals.
Because that's all pre-treatment up there.
That's all pre-treatment. It's a pre-treatment center up there at the Averitt Road pumping station, yeah.
I'm just going to suggest that if you ever think you might need to use them, because we have the new regulations from the Board of Health around using chemicals in bodies of water in town, that you kind of preemptively come up with some kind of procedure, but if you don't think it's necessary, then don't.
Well, we have a procedure. It's basically, all we do is buy some potassium permanganate, because it's the easier one to use. The chlorine dioxide generator is quite a sophisticated piece of equipment. And it requires chemical deliveries, 3 different chemicals to be mixed together, which some of them are pretty dangerous. And the potassium permanganate is just a day tank, a mixing tank, and a little chemical feed pump, and we just pump it into the water main, and it travels 2 miles in the water main before it gets down to the treatment plant. So it's a pre-treatment process to take care of any of that. And like I said, luckily, we have not had to use that in the past.
Oh my God, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Tony, anything?
I think I spoke about, earlier about the sump pump. That would have been my concern.
Yeah,
And
I
so
think that's a great idea, Tony, by the way.
I don't think I have anything else.
Okay, Mike,
No, I think I'm all good.
Good.
John, we're good?
Okay,
Somebody make a motion?
I moved
make a
that.
motion to adjourn. Second.
So moved. Thank you, everyone.